So this is a piece of mimosa. My friend John sent me a log. I cut a section off of it. I want to try something with this half before I turn the other. It's about 7 inches both directions, but you can see it's not really round. It's kind of a teardrop shape, and it's about 4.5 inches this way. It does have some nice tight bark on it, and it seems to be on there pretty well, so I'm going to try to leave that. I put a hole in here for a worm screw. Let me get this mounted up, sharpen up some gouges, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've got it mounted up now, and now it looks a lot shorter than it did before I got it on the lathe, but I'm still going to try with what I'm planning, because it can always turn into something else. It's end grain, and I'll be cutting downhill because you're slicing across into the grain instead of underneath lifting it. It'll just cut a lot better that way. Hitting 750 RPM, and I just sharpened a 5/8 bowl gouge. Yeah, see it's showing up. It's going to be really pretty. I'm going to switch to a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to try to make a droop bowl out of this. That means I need to undercut this area here. And that's why I'm trying to leave a lot of bark on top, because that's going to droop down. So we'll see if this is going to work or not. It doesn't cut very well that way, but in order to do an undercut on here, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to go ahead and try my new tool. It's a Badan, I guess that's how you say it. Yeah, that works. That works. Much better. And it looks like I lost some bark along the way. Let's see what I can find around here to patch that up. Well, I figured this tool would come in handy. I'm going to switch to this 1/4 inch gouge, 3/8 shaft, 1/4 inch flute. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this off, and then I'll decide whether it's going to be a tenon or a recess. I'm thinking it's going to be a tenon. Using my 5/8 bowl gouge, and we're still doing about 725 RPM. I felt like the worm screw slipped a little bit, so I'm putting the tailstock back up here, and I hope I can get a tenon on this now. I'm going to go ahead and sand this, and I'm going to sand it with sheets of paper because this is nowhere close to round. I don't think I could reach in there with a disc and do it, and I won't even try to sand that under power, but I'll sneak up to it like this and then catch the ends. So I'll do that starting with 80 grit up through 400. Maybe this will work actually. Alright, I can do that. That worked. Okay, that worked just fine. Alright, we'll get this all sanded up and probably go ahead and put some finish on it. And we'll flip it around. I'm going to start with a coat of sanding sealer. I haven't totally decided what I'll use for the final finish. You can see that that worm screw eventually didn't hold. That's why I had to go back to getting the tailstock against it. It was really tight when I put it on. I couldn't twist it on any tighter, but I probably should have put some CA glue down in the threads after I made them. That is a very pretty piece of wood. I just love Mimosa. I'm going to put a coat on the bark. Okay, I think I will flip this around before I decide on the final finish. So I'll see you when I have it flipped around. So I've got it flipped around now, and the first thing I want to do is flatten that surface, and then I want to measure on this side and see how big of an opening we can make. Using a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, we're doing 725 RPM. Okay, that's actually fairly flat. Kind of surprised me. I thought it was off a lot. I've determined that this outside line is the diameter right underneath it, and I need to go inside of that so I don't cut through. What I want to do now is taper this top, and I think I'm going to need to cut from this direction because, well, it's probably going to be the easiest way to keep that bark intact. And I'm also dealing with something that's not round. Wow, that cut really nice. I think I'm probably going to drill a hole in here. This end grain is a lot harder than I expected, but if I get a nice big hole in there, I can get down and cut coming up towards the outside, and it cuts much better like that. I'm about 4 inches to the bottom from right here, so I'm going to drill probably 3.5, starting with a smaller bit and work my way up to, I think, a 2 1/8 is as big as I have. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's certainly going to take a while. I'll show you a little bit of it, but I don't think you're going to want to watch it all. 380 RPM, and I think that's probably a 1.1/8 bit. Got this hole drilled down to about 3 3/4, and that leaves me a good strong 1/2 inch on the bottom, and I think I'm going to just go with that because I don't want any surprises. This is a difficult hollowing out end grain, and because it's the same thing with cutting it with a gouge, if I try to go down and open it up this way, I'm pushing under the fibers. So the best way to do it is start down here and kind of pull up, and you'll be actually slicing them instead of trying to lift them. And I'm going to use my little hollowing tool. I just put a new bit on it. I think it should do a good job. We're doing about 700 RPM. What I really have to watch for is this right here. Hi there.
Hi, babe.
Okay, I'm back. Oh boy. I've kind of repositioned things, and I've got the lathe set up to turn in reverse. And I can see a lot better down in here, and I'm not reaching, bending over. I have about 3/4 of the depth down to about 3/8 of an inch, and I did all that with the lathe running in reverse. I'm going to go forward now because I actually think I have better access to it, and I'm not bending over that much, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for a while. Still use the small one. About the same RPM, which is about 700. Alright, that is it. I am around 3/8 of an inch I don't know how thick the bottom is exactly, but it's at least 3/8. So, wow, that was a lot of work. So I'm going to go ahead and get kind of set up, and we'll get it sanded. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get this sanded up, and I've got an extension on my mandrel. Be easier to reach in there and also get it on an angle. I'm going to start with 80 grit lathe running forward at about 380 RPM. I'll get it all sanded up to 400 and I'll come back and put sanding sealer on the inside of this. Okay, see you pretty soon. I've got it all sanded up. It wasn't too bad to do. I'm going to go ahead and put some sanding sealer on it now. I think this will be pretty interesting right here. This almost looks like bone. Well, you're probably not going to see a lot here, but you want to get some rubbed on so you can. There. Pretty dark in there now with this kind of wet, but there, that probably helps. Okay, well, another coat of sealer on this and the underside, and I'll pick a finish. And that'll be tomorrow. Alright, I'm going to remove the tenon, and I have it spinning right now because once I got the finish on there, I think the grain is really cool looking, and I want you to see that all at one time at the very end. So I'm going to remove this tenon, 1/2 inch bowl gouge, 480 RPM to start with. Okay, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to sand this area, and I think I'm just going to take this off and sand the nub. So I'll be back and I'll show you exactly what we have here. Well, here it is, the not so droopy droop bowl. And I could have had it droop more, but once I kind of got the shape on there, I just kind of worked with what was left, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's really a pretty piece of wood. There's a lot of contrast in it. Here's the top. You can see the really dark heartwood in there. So I didn't turn anything on this rim here, so it's still about 7 by 7. It's 4 inches tall, and the base is 4 inches. And wow, was this a hard piece of wood to turn the inside out. It's soft wood, it doesn't weigh much, but it was very difficult. I think it's a pretty piece of wood. So I did put a coat of shellac-based sanding sealer on it, but for the finish, I decided to use wipe-on poly, and it was the satin version of that wipe-on poly that I used. And that was a Minwax product. And the sanding sealer is the Zinsser Seal Coat. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and a special thanks to John for sending me this beautiful piece of Mimosa, and I hope everybody enjoyed this video. I'd like to take this time to thank everyone for watching. If you enjoyed what you just watched, please click that like button and leave a comment. I enjoy reading them all. I'll do my best to answer them all. I love doing all types of turnings, from a chunk of a tree to a fancy segmented illusion. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. Special thanks to all of you current subscribers. So, till the next time, see you later.